Hello. All right. Good evening. Wherever you're joining in from, you're most welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. My name is Sel, and today we're going to have something very interesting. All right. But before we get into that, I just want to let this music flow a little bit. And we're going to wait for some few more people to join. I'm hoping that this session, we're going to have people joining in. All right. Okay. I believe that you all had a great weekend. I believe that the weekend was amazing and you're all gearing up for a productive week ahead. All right, so my name is Sel. I'm the founder of SHEQPGHOnline. Today we are on your feed, on your timeline, basically to amplify health and safety. Because it is very, very important. It is actually a call to action on all of us that we need to be very committed to safety. We need to be aware of health and safety. So we are welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. SHEQPGHOnline is where we actually share health and safety news and we share our opinion from the safety lens. All right. So wherever you're joining in from, you're welcome. This is our first live stream on SHEQPGHOnline. And we are actually streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. All right. So on Facebook, we are streaming on our personal profile because we couldn't really get access to the Facebook page. And then on LinkedIn as well, we are doing it on our profile, my personal profile. And we are actually doing it on our business page on YouTube. All right. So if you want to be part of this community, do well to follow us, subscribe to our channels. All right. So today we're going to talk about something very interesting for obvious reasons. I believe that we are all aware about the incident that happened on Friday. All right. So on Friday, the early hours of Friday, there was another market fire. I've been talking about market fire, for some time now in some videos and all, but we had another incident regarding fire market once again, and I believe that this is actually important for us to discuss. We're going to have a conversation about market fire, and we're going to look at a lot of interesting stuff. All right, so we're going to be reviewing some of the footages that came out, so that we can put some context into some of the issues that we're going to be highlighting in this very presentation. All right, so this is our podcast. This is a safety podcast with Sel, but you can call it the opinion from the safety lens. All right, so if you're joining in, you're welcome. You're most welcome. All right, so we are going to talk about basically this stuff. We're going to look at the stages of the fire outbreak. All right, we're going to be reviewing the footages. We're going to look at the stages of the fire outbreak. We're also going to be looking at the nature of the response from the Ghana National Fire Service. We're going to be looking at the risk involved in fighting fire. We're also going to look at the lapses we have as a country and the way forward, right? So these are just the 5 main areas that we're going to focus on. And I believe that we're going to exhaust this topic or these outlines, very, very important. All right, so if you're joining us for the first time, you're most welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. SHEQPGHOnline is the forum where we share health and safety news. So basically what we do is that we gather safety news, all right, from all the news outlets, and then we basically, digest it and can present it from the safety lens, right? So we are sharing our opinion from the safety lens, basically letting you understand health and safety from our own perspective as safety professionals. All right, so my name is Sel. I'm a health and safety practitioner, and you're welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. Okay, so I have not been around for a while as far as SHEQPGHOnline is concerned, but the reason is that we have a lot of things that we've been doing, and sometimes it's really difficult to, it is really difficult to actually come online, just because, we are taking time to build this platform. So we have our platform. So for those of you who are not too much familiar with SHEQPGHOnline, I'll just go ahead and share my screen so that you have a context of what we've been about. All right, so I'll just share my screen right away. All right, so this is SHEQPGHOnline. If you are, how do I share my screen? All right, so basically this is what SHEQPGHOnline is all about. We are actually a news platform, right? We have a news platform where we publish health and safety news, and we have a lot of publications on our website. Basically, we are trying to support health and safety in the media by, gathering data, gathering all the news from all the media platforms, and then we are consolidating them here so that everyone would know where to find, all the news about health and safety in Ghana. And then we are sharing our opinion from the safety lens. Okay, so when you visit our platform, you can actually, reach us directly. If you have any article to share, you can get in touch with us. We're going to publish your articles. We've had a lot of, submissions from, some of our colleagues. So this is where you're going to find everything about, health and safety in Ghana. All right. So we're just consolidating this news over here. We have various categories where you're going to find everything you need about health and safety in Ghana. All right. So that's pretty much what SHEQPGHOnline is about. So we are a platform where we share health and safety news, and we are sharing our opinion from the safety lens. All right. So today we are talking about the Ghana market fire. Particularly, we're looking at the incident that happened on Friday. At the early hours of Friday, there was a market, fire incident. So I'll just give a context to it. Right. In the early hours of Friday, the Edo market in the Ashanti region was gutted by fire. About 80% of the market got burnt. Now, from the report that came in, the fire started at a very small place around Happy FM. But as it is with fire, fire eventually spread, and it eventually spread to the commercial center of the market. So unfortunately, a lot of things were lost. Goods and properties were all burnt. Traders were devastated, and from the report that we heard, about 9 people were injured. 1 person lost his life, and that was a firefighter, right? So this incident actually caught a lot of attention. It made headline, on Friday, Saturday. If you go on the news feed, everybody's talking about the fire. The President of the Republic of Ghana actually went to the scene as well to engage with the media, engage with the traders to show his emotional care and support. The regional minister as well was there all throughout the night during the fire, and a lot of stakeholders, right? So the NADMO was there, the KMA was there. Eventually, the fire was controlled, but properties had been lost, investments were all lost. People lost 1 person lost his life, people got injured, and that actually highlights the cost of a fire outbreak, right? So basically, we are looking at what went wrong. What are the systemic failures we have in this country as far as safety is concerned? We're going to look at all of these lapses, and then we're going to look at the way forward, right? Okay, so as a reminder, we are streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you're joining us for the first time, you're welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. And this is where we talk about health and safety. We share our opinion from the safety lens. So there's something that we are trying to do. If you want to be part of this community, you can always get in touch. In our publication for this very live show, we'd also attach the link to join if you want to be part of this conversation. We're going to look at the Edom fire and try to understand what went wrong. All right, so let me go back to the outline of this presentation. So I don't even want to call it presentation. I just want to call it an opinion from the safety lens. So this is actually like a show. I don't want to make it too boring like a webinar or anything. All right, so we're going to look at the stages of the fire. All right, so the fire started, eventually it spread very, very fast to other areas, and it's very important I really understand what fire is all about, how fire spread, and all of this stuff. All right, so if you're joining us, give us a thumbs up, share a comment, say hi to us. Let us see where you're viewing us from, where you're watching us from. I believe that you're probably watching us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever. Just give us a shout out, right? So there's something that we are doing just to support, just to add to the community, just to bring some dynamics to health and safety in Ghana. There are people who are actually amplifying health and safety. So we want to give shout out to all the colleagues out there who are equally doing an amazing job amplifying the importance of safety in various forums. I want to give shout out to all our community members, all those in our health and safety professional groups, all those in Safety Campaign Ghana. I want to give shout out to all tuition providers who are actually helping to amplify health and safety one way or the other, especially those in the knowledge niche. I've been talking about the knowledge niche for some time now. It's all about sharing knowledge. not only to build capacity as safety professionals, but you're equally sharing knowledge to let it go beyond, far and beyond, right? So that a lot more people will benefit, because it looks like, or we cannot let health and safety knowledge only stick with us as professionals, because we probably know a lot about safety, but it is really important that we share that knowledge with the wider community, right? And a wider community will mean that we need to build our platforms where we can reach a wider audience. And this is basically what we stand for. SHEQPGHOnline is actually standing for that we want to really reach a wider audience so that we don't limit conversations among ourselves. And this is something we've been championing since 2001 when we started talking about SHEQPGHOnline. All right. So if you're a health and safety professional and you want to, be part of this forum, basically, you want to be part of a focus group where we can equally be having conversations and be going live like this and be discussing health and safety. You can always get in touch with me, right? Because this is something I'm very passionate about. I'm passionate about safety. And for some of you, I think you may be aware that how passionate I am, to the extent of, trying to create a lot of systems around safety. And that's actually one of these systems. The fact that we have, we are trying to grow our YouTube channel. So if you want to be part, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're trying to grow our community. You want to be very consistent at it. So this is something you're not going to stop at all. We're going to be doing it, but we all have a challenge. And what is the challenge? The challenge is the fact that most of us have a 9-to-5 job, and for that reason, it's very difficult for us to avail ourselves, right? And I mean, that is usually the case for most of us. Most of us are always busy working. So even when there's a forum like a conference where we need to come in and have a conversation about safety, it's very difficult. So that is really the reason why we try to set ourselves up so that we can actually broadcast right from the comfort of our homes, that we indeed have an opinion about safety. We have an opinion about safety in Ghana. All right. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to this show. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you are chancing upon our video on any of these platforms, please give us a thumbs up, like our videos, and engage with us. All right. So there's something new that we're doing, but it's not only limited to me. Everybody is welcome to join. And then we are amplifying safety at all times, right? So guys, you're welcome to this forum. All right. So without wasting time, I'm just going to head right into this presentation, right? So we are going to look at the stages of fire. Basically, we noticed that when the fire started, suddenly everybody had gathered and were looking at it, and they had no clue what to do. And that actually is bound to happen, because fire at that point was its growth stage, right? It was growing. So we want to really put context into all of this stuff, right? So without wasting time, let's get into the basics, right? So right now you're going back to the basics. The basics is very, very important. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, just bear in mind that we are SHEQPGHOnline, and I think that you guys should give me a round of applause for trying to make this happen. All right. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you all for showing up. And I see that there are 2 people who are watching me right now. That is very, very fantastic, guys. So I very much appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys for watching. Okay, so let's go back and let's start it. All right, so now we're going to look at our presentation. Now we're going back to the basics. All right, so right now we are broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I believe that some people may be watching us from there as well, but not everyone is a safety professional. So it's always important that we break it down to everybody's level so we really understand. And given the fact that we are actually doing this on social media, I believe that as you guys like, this post, we're going to go viral, or we're going to keep, going far with our message about safety, right? It's not every time that we can really go on a conference to talk about safety. I've spoken on conferences a few times, right? But these are like one-off instances. Probably 2021, I spoke at a conference. There was another time I spoke at a conference, and that was it. But this live stream is something that we can be doing every single day, right? We can be preaching the safety message every single day. And that is how I personally contribute to safety in Ghana, that we are sharing our opinion from the safety lens. Okay. All right. So going back to the basics, I just want to quickly, dive into what fire is. I think that all of us, all right. So all of us understand basically what fire is, right? So I'm going to lower my volume a little bit. Right. So basically, the fire is basically a process of combustion, right? And that produces what we call combustion product, right? So basically, whenever fire is burning, what is produced is what we call the combustion product. So these combustion products actually are the gases. These are toxic gases. There is heat that is produced, light is produced, and heat, right? So heat, light, toxic gases, and smoke. Now, take note that all of these toxic gases or these combustion products equally are risky, in the sense that when you find yourself in any environment, any enclosed environment, and you're exposed to heat, or you're exposed to smoke, or you're exposed to toxic gases, you're going to suffer the effect of these, products, in the sense that the toxic gas could actually cause asphyxiation, something we call asphyxiation, that is inadequate, oxygen in your blood because you're exposed to carbon monoxide, and that is going to cause some, make you go unconscious, right? And eventually you can actually pass on. And this has happened many times, especially those who, put generator set in their rooms. The generator set produces toxic gases, carbon monoxide, and it causes poison, right? So basically, we all know the fire triangle. This is something we're all familiar with. We need to make sure that there's a fuel, there's the oxygen, there's the ignition for fire to start, right? And the whole process of the fire starting is based on the fact that when the whole process starts with what we call an external heat, right? An external heat must be applied to a fuel up until the point the fuel will start to burn, and that is the ignition temperature of the fuel. So every fuel has its ignition temperature. You get it? For example, a paper has its own ignition temperature, and then any other fuel like a plastic equally has its own ignition temperature. So the heat must be strong enough to get to a point where the fuel can burn. And with the right amount of oxygen, then we're going to have fire burning. And once the fire starts, then we all know that the whole process of burning is then sustained by a chemical reaction, right? So the other one is the fire triangle. This is what we call the fire tetrahedron. So we have the heat, the oxygen, and then the fuel, and then the chemical reaction sustaining the fire. So all the burning process would replicate this kind of mechanism, and then the whole process of the fire spreading will now be done through the process of direct burning, conduction, convection, and radiation. All right. So I'm just going to share another presentation that I have in here. We're going to look at basically the various stages of a fire spread, right? So whenever a fire starts, we need to bear in mind that every time fire starts, we are always at the incipient phase, right? That is a phase where we have all of these stuff coming together, all right? And once you have all of these coming together, then the fire begins to burn, right? And based on the fact that the fire is spreading through conduction, convection, radiation, and direct burning, with adequate supply of oxygen, with adequate supply of fuel, then fire is going to start to grow, right? So once the fire starts to grow, at this point, the fire is what we call at the growth stage. There's a lot of fuel still around for fire to keep burning. You get to a point where there's all the fuel are now available for fire to really keep burning. So it goes all the way to the point where, the fire becomes fully developed. At this point, the heat that is produced in the burning process is very, very extreme. This is where the temperature reaches its maximum. Okay. So at this point, the fire continues to burn up until the fuel begins to decay. All right. So the fuel begins to reduce, right? So when the fuel is reducing because there's no more fuel to sustain the fire, then the fire begins to die down, right? So at this phase, we call it the decay phase. Now, the decay phase, there's still extreme heat that is generated. And whenever there's any additional fuel and any additional oxygen, then there's going to be what we call a flashover. So a flashover is when suddenly fire that is almost about to die, explosively returns back into the fully developed phase just because there has been a new supply of oxygen and fuel. So usually when buildings are burning and the doors are shut, it is important that people do not open the doors, because once you open the door, the window, the fuel will start to burn once again, right? So that's pretty much what happened during this event. All right. So we're going to go back and look at some of the footages that happened. Footages that were gathered from most of the people who were actually at the scene of the incident. So without wasting time, I'll just share with you all of this stuff. Okay. So hold on. If you're joining us for the first time, you're welcome. All right, so this is the first time I'm doing this type of presentation. We've been going live on other platforms, but this is the first time I'm doing this on SHEQPGHOnline. So bear with us if there's a bit of a hitch. Okay, so we are trying our best. All right, so I'm just going to share with you this video. This video actually started when the incident started, and you could see that at that point the fire had gotten out of hand. People were just standing by, and they were all videoing the incident, right? So I'm gonna all right, so this is basically all right, so basically at this point you could see that the fire has started. It is already raging over there. We could see that people are gathered. All right, so basically that was the phase where the fire had reached the growth phase, right? So at the growth phase, the fire becomes very visible for everyone to see. And let's bear in mind that it is when we are at the incipient phase that you can actually extinguish fire. The moment the fire gets to the growth phase, you cannot do anything, right? Except the fact that we need to call on emergency service. So basically we want to make sure that before the fire gets to this point, we have the capacity to extinguish the fire. So what we see in the video is the fact that we're unable to detect the fire early enough at the incipient phase. And it was at this point that people saw that there was fire blazing, and people took notice of it and started taking a video. And I believe that at this point they called the Ghana National Fire Service, and they actually responded. All right, so we're going to be looking at how they responded, some of the challenges they faced, and all of that. All right, so I'm going to show you this video as well. All right, so this video, you can see that the fire is now spreading. All right, so the fire is spreading ferociously, as you can see. All right. All right, so let's bear in mind that we are still in the growth phase of this fire. As you can see, we are still in the growth phase, right? So the growth phase of the fire is basically the phase where the fire continues to build momentum and continues to spread. All right. So the growth phase of the fire, usually the only way to deal with it is the fact that you have the emergency services at post to be able to deploy their fire tenders and all the extinguishing agents to be able to really fight the fire. Okay. So this is basically what happened. All right. So that is basically the fact that at this very point, the fire had reached the growth phase, right? So the growth phase, the fire, you cannot extinguish it with any handheld fire extinguisher. Again, of course, we all know the lapses, that there wasn't any, the fire emergency preparedness at the market center is totally zero. So we're going to get into that, all right? So I'm going to show you another footage where we can see that the fire actually reached the fully developed phase. Now, the fully developed phase is where all the fuel at the given location have all been consumed by the fire, and it is at its peak. All right. So at that point, the heat that is generated, all right, according to what we've gathered, is about between 700 and where is it? It's between 700 to 1200 degrees Celsius. This kind of heat, nobody can stand it. Even the fire tenders themselves, the firefighters themselves, they cannot stand the heat, and for that reason, they need some sort of protection when they are fighting the fire. Okay, so the protection they need is having to have a fire suit, that is able to insulate them against the heat and all of that. So, I mean, PP at this point is non-negotiable, right? So we're going to look at, this very stage. So as you can see, the rate of burning has increased. The heat that is being emitted is the highest and it's at its peak. Okay, so that is pretty much what we have here. As long as the footages are concerned, I think that we want to look at another video that we gathered that had to do with the fact that there was a challenge, right? So let's look at the challenge that the firefighters faced when they were trying to have access to the place. All right. So basically, the layout. I mean, this is basically the building that got burnt. At the front view, the back side is basically where the fire equally reached. Now, this is within the perimeter of the market center. The one that came earlier was the frontage. And this is where you could see that the firefighters are still working. At this point, I mean, the fire has actually gutted the marketplace, and we could see that some of the fuel had gotten to the stage of decay, right? Because at this point, fuel is the fire is coming down. So this is the stage of decay. Okay. Yeah, so let's have a look at it again. All right. So the firefighters were on the ground. The fire was at its good phase initially, right? But with the consistent, supply of the extinguishing agent to fight the fire, they were able to reduce, it, and the fire got to a point where it could be fully extinguished. But then there were just small fires all around. So we could see that at this point, the fire has reached the decay stage, right? So this is the decay stage of the fire. But we need to take note of the fact that, there was a challenge with access to the various locations where the fire was happening. And that is for obvious reasons, right? Because there's no emergency access, route for them to use their fire tenders. Because usually the layout of a marketplace in Ghana is just the fact that everybody is busy trying to sell, and even the place where vehicles are meant to use are all blocked. That is always the case if you go to every market center, right? So we have what we call the informal economy when it comes to, the economy of Ghana, right? Economy of Ghana is an informal economy. About maybe 60% of the economy is an informal sector, right? We'll be getting into that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you another footage where, we noticed, of course, we saw that there were additional support from the Ghana National Fire Service. I mean, additional support from the military. All right. So a lot of stakeholders were actually there. People from NADMO were there. The KMA, the assembly was there. The president actually went to the scene. The regional minister was equally there. A lot of people were actually there. And all of them were basically to follow up and also show, their compassion, their emotional care and support, and make sure that we're able to, stop the fire. But let's see what happened, right? So let's have a look at what happened to some of the. All right, so basically tempest started growing high. People got angry because of the, a lot of lapses during the response. The Ghana National Fire Service had a challenge. At some point, they ran out of their extinguishing agents, and then people were frustrated. All right, so there's the fire that ensued. Sorry, the fight that ensued among the people who were angry because there was a delay in fighting the fire at this point. Okay, so that is pretty much what happened. Let's look at another interesting footage from a lady, and a lady had something interesting to share. All right, so basically the lady was, angry about the fact that the response from the Ghana National Fire Service wasn't adequate, and she was actually calling for use of advanced technology like use of helicopter to fight the fire. That's actually a legitimate, concern, given the fact that in other parts of the world they've invested in, how to effectively fight fire, given any layout of a workplace, whether it's a story building or is a highly, crowded area. They always have means of extinguishing fire because they've done their risk assessment. They know how to navigate around. All right, so that's pretty much some of the challenges that we faced. All right, so I'll just look at if there are any other videos I can show you guys so that we can put some context into this fire. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's look at the flashback. Okay, so we're going to look at flashback of when the fire is at its decay phase, right? If fire is at its decay phase, eventually it can, reignite, just because there's a new another, sort of fuel that has been added, or some new, source of oxygen has now been introduced, right? So we're going to look at this very footage. All right, so we could see that four was introduced, right? There's a lot of four all over, and now we're having a flashback. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is the footages that we've showed you, and these footages are just for us to understand what exactly happened. These are the sequence of events that transpired, on Friday and throughout the weekend. And we could see that even people the following day, they had to sort of go back to the fire scene, basically to count their losses. So people are there now to count their losses. All right, so this is what happened, and you could see how, the fire has transformed the area. Everything has been, left into ashes, a lot of scraps all over the place, burnt goods all over the place. All right, so that is pretty much all these footages that we want to show you, just to put context into what we're about to discuss. All right, so you're welcome once again to SHEQPGHOnline. All right, so I'll just go ahead and then share my presentation, and I believe that you'll find it very insightful. We're going to look at the fires. Hold on. All right, so we're going to look at the market fires. All right, so this is basically the topic we are discussing. It's a call to action to all stakeholders, right? Now, when you're talking about all stakeholders, you're talking about the government, the duty holders. And the duty holders, you're talking about everybody who is doing business. If you're doing business, you have a responsibility for safety. We're talking about individuals as well. All of us are responsible for safety. All right. So the government has the biggest responsibility, because the government must ensure that the national system has been established to ensure that the right framework for implementing safety has been, put in place to ensure that employers are compliant and individuals have the needed support for them to be able to, perform their health and safety roles, right? So we're going to look at basically what are the challenges that we can see when it comes to basically the fires. All right, some of the challenges that we see when it comes to market fires. Okay, so we can say that Ghana operates an informal economy. That's something that we've highlighted a few times in some of our discussions, that Ghana operates an informal economy. And because we operate an informal economy, always people are looking for ways to sort of survive. I mean, when you go to the marketplaces, you know that the structure of the buildings are not properly organized. There's no, proper workplace, proper layout of the marketplace. There's no access route. There's no and people are trying to survive because you're operating an informal economy. People want to survive. People are looking for how to basically succeed. Just because there's poverty level, the poverty level is a bit low in Ghana, and everybody is suffering. And the informal sector are really the most impacted people. So this has an impact on health and safety in Ghana. Now, that actually has a bearing on their health and safety awareness, the ability to implement safety measures, because you cannot ask a trader to really, I mean, what can a trader implement when it comes to safety, except the fact that they have to, safeguard their own safety by being aware of some of the risk involved in what they do. But the duty of that always falls on the government. So the government has the biggest responsibility in transforming the economy and making sure that the informal sector has been set up properly to remove, I mean, reduce the percentage of how the informal sector is set up, especially in our marketplaces. In our marketplaces, we cannot be having a kind of setup that shows that we are an informal economy. It does not augur well. All right, you go to all the marketplaces, you see that all the routes where vehicles are supposed to be passing have been occupied by traders, because they want to survive and everybody want to do what they want, right? Again, we are talking about inadequate infrastructure, right? So inadequate infrastructure, basically the poor market layout, we've talked about it, the lack of passive fire protection system, because we build the buildings, I mean, we construct all of these building facilities without considering the fact that there could be potential fire. And the interesting thing is that even when the Kantamatu market fire even happened, the following maybe a couple of weeks later, we saw that they were mounting the place, they were reconstructing the place, and there was no regard for safety. Okay, so a lot of interesting things. I'll probably share that video as well, where we saw that the way the fire took down the place. I mean, a lot of combustible materials were all ravaged by the fire, right? But just when they had opportunity to recover, they went back to the same combustible materials. And I'll probably find that footage as well and share. So that clearly shows that we are not learning as a country when it comes to incident, particularly the fire incident, right? So I'll just hold on, let me find that video and share as well. So this is really very, very important that we are aware of these challenges so that we can look at the way to address them. Okay. So those who are joining us for the first time, you are welcome to SHEQPGHOnline. And I believe this our presentation is insightful. This is the first time we are doing this. We are doing this just to support. And if there's any lapses, let us know. We are improving. Okay. All right. So when they were trying to, reconstruct the place, look at what happened. You could see a lot of, wooden structures all over the place. And these are all combustible materials, ordinary combustibles, right? And you could see that this is where a firefighter had to stand to fight the fire. I mean, there's no proper access route. So this is where he had to stand, and the whole place is engulfed in fire. Okay. So going back to basically how the whole place has been constructed, you can see that no access route. I mean, how do we just come out of a fire incident, a fire outbreak, and suddenly we go back repeating the same mistake? And no authority could actually challenge it, because probably the authorities do not know their safety. They don't know, or they're not aware about health and safety, or the system. I don't know. So we are always talking about the national system for safety. It has to be robust, and everybody must understand their roles and responsibility. And that is really the reason why it is important that safety is a law, even though we have the Officers, Shops and Act, or Officers and Shops Act, right? The Factories, Officers and Shops Act. We have that, but that is not enough. All right. When we're looking at other jurisdiction, we notice that there is an Act of Parliament. We can see the Factory Officers and Shops Act. Fair enough. But then again, there are a lot of regulations that address various health and safety concerns. In Ghana here, we only have that one act, and there are no further regulations on various health and safety concerns, right? We can have a regulation on fire safety, regulation on work attire, regulation on construction, regulation on PP, regulation on explosive, regulation on radioactive, so regulation on a lot of regulation. I mean, whichever industry that you operate, you're probably familiar with some of them. All right. So we need a lot of regulation in Ghana. We need, fire. We need to make sure that the national system is adequate. The inspectors are going around to check and making sure that safety is implemented at every workplace, especially if you're a duty holder. And then if you're operating an informal economy, then the government must make sure that they are setting them up for success, right? The government must make sure that they are designing the workplace with consideration for safety and not allow the traders, whichever organizations or philanthropists or whoever contributed to this, to just quickly rebuild this marketplace without even considering safety, even when they just came out from an incident. All right. So I'll just move on to the next slide. I hope my screen is sharing. Let me go back to it. All right. So if you're joining us, just bear in mind that we are doing this for the first time, but we are trying our best. I believe that we are still improving. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. All right. So again, we are talking about safety negligence, right? So the negligence is also always the case. I mean, the various government that have come into power, all of them do not really pay attention to safety, especially something that really amazes me is the minister in charge of, the Ministry of Labor and Employment Relations. I mean, safety is part of the scope of work, I believe. In fact, that is the case. Safety is part. If you are coming out with labor laws, safety is part of the scope. So you should look at the safety and welfare of people at work. What kind of systems can set them up, to thrive, in the sense that what systems can we put in place to compel employers to be compliant and ensure that workers are protected and all of that. So the negligence there, and when it comes to corruption, that's another case altogether, right? So we are talking about corruption in the sense that government does not prioritize appropriately and focus on unnecessary stuff. For example, with the past government having to spend so much on national cathedral, when in actual fact we need so much money to do a lot of important stuff. Okay, so we are hoping that the current government would not misplace priority, will not condone corruption, would ensure that people are doing the right thing. Okay, right. Now we're going to look at the lapses. Now this is where we talk about the lapses. Now the lapses, of course, we've looked at the national system as one of them. But really, when we go further down, we are talking about overcrowding and congestion at the marketplaces, right? So overcrowding is something that basically we cannot we see with all the marketplaces in Ghana. Okay, so overcrowding is a big problem, and as you can see from this footage, that is currently what it is. If at every marketplace you go, you see that it is overcrowded. People, there's no way to pass. Congestion is massive. All right, and that leads to it increases the risk of fire occurring because people always want to find shortcuts, means of doing things very fast, a convenient way of doing things. So this leads to a lot of unsafe acts. Gas cylinders could be stored around the area. People are cooking, people are frying. Yeah, that's basically what it is. All right, so wherever there's congestion, there's so much fire hazards all around, a lot of combustibles all around, gases and flammable substances here and there. All right, so we can talk about the fact that because it's an informal economy, then a lot of electrical, illegal activities around electrical wiring. People tend to just connect to power without really considering the load that it can actually take, and that could lead to maybe short circuit or overloading the equipment or power surges in when they are using power. And then we can talk about the fact that there's no regard for fire safety equipment. So there's no single marketplace you go that you're gonna see, a fire fighting equipment, because that is not the focus. No, you wouldn't see that in any shop around, the market centers. And there's nobody enforcing that. There's no fixed fire hydrant system at any location around the fire centers. Around the market centers. And these are some of the challenges that we have as a country. All right. So basically, we've looked at, the challenges from the bigger pictures, the system, right? The fact that we have an informal economy, the fact that we have, we don't have the infrastructure, the fact that there's negligence right from the top. And then we are looking at around the market centers themselves, overcrowding and congestion, hazardous material storage, electrical faults and illegal connections, and all of this stuff. Okay. So that is pretty much what it is. Now we are talking about why does fire outbreak persist, right? It persists basically because of, poverty and economic desperation. When people are operating in an informal economy, given the fact that Past governments have actually made matters worse, and we are hoping that this government doesn't repeat same. Poverty level has risen. People want to survive, and people are just bypassing safety rules. They are taking shortcuts. They are not even aware of the unsafe act they are taking. And again, we're talking about the cultural and social factors. So we are coming from, our cultural influences. Our culture influences health and safety, right? Because the nature of the marketplace is the same since time immemorial, right? Since time immemorial, the nature of the marketplace has always been the same. There's no, even when they are building new marketplaces, sometimes they don't even make any significant consideration for safety. It's literally, just a bare cemented ground with some structures here and there, with some shed here and there, and that is it. So they just go to occupy those places, and that's it. Everybody just secures their space with a container or something, and that's their store, right? So that is the culture, the social factors that are influencing health and safety, and all is coming from the leaders. That the leaders must ensure that they are, driving a reform, a structural changes in how these places, these market centers are built. All right, and then we can also talk about climate impact in recent times, that we are having a lot of climate changes here and there that is affecting safety. And though we are actually in an environment where it's not so hot, I think that's actually a factor to consider in other locations around the world. But of course, whenever the heat is high, the potential for fire to occur is equally there. All right. So that's pretty much. We are also looking at the importance of us strengthening fire safety in Ghana. All right. So basically, it is important that we do a comprehensive fire risk assessment. Now, fire risk assessment is very, very important. This is something that looks very formal in the formal settings, right? So every company would do a fire risk assessment, just because it is they are committed to safety. They understand the need to prevent fire. I mean, though not all companies, but the companies that have the support of safety professionals are able to, you know, um, do fire risk assessment, making sure that they know all the fire hazards at the workplace. They know where the falls are. They know what type of fall it is, where to put the right fire extinguishing agent or fire extinguisher, and they are training their workers. That is fantastic. But in the informal sector, that is different, right? So it is important that we understand the importance of risk assessment. But then, who has the capacity to do this in the market centers? So that will be the Ghana National Fire Service, right? The Ghana National Fire Service has a very big role to play. They have a very big role to play to make sure that the every market center, they've done a risk assessment. Besides, they are the regulator, and they actually issue the permits, right? They issue permits, they issue fire certificate on the grounds that you've done a fire. You've put in place a fire arrangement, the right fire arrangement at the area. So why is it that at the market centers we don't seek to ensure that the reason why fire permits must have been issued are being complied with, right? But I don't know. It looks like we can trace it back to negligence on the part of people who issue out permits, and because of that, they're not doing proper due diligence. They're not checking to make sure that the fire arrangements are indeed in place, and that is the culture here. So basically, you can renew your permits without having to really ensure that you have the right safety measures in place. So that is, usually the practice in Ghana here, and that must stop. All right. So fire risk assessment must be done at the market centers by the Ghana National Fire Service, or the duty holders by holding them to account. And then they will have to inspect and verify that, as per the risk assessment, all the controls they identify, are they in place? All right. So that is one. And again, we need to improve the market infrastructure. So there's no doubt about that. Government must make sure that they improve the infrastructure at the market centers. All right. So it has to be something that they have to plan, have an action plan, have a deadline. If it is 4 years in government, they need to have a national strategy for that. How they're going to improve the market infrastructure, and not allow individuals or some entities to just develop a marketplace, or let marketplace spring up just like that, or anyhow. Okay. Again, we can talk about the importance of providing fire safety training and equipment. All right. So this is where really a lot of stakeholders like health and safety professionals we come in to support with providing training, sharing training knowledge, making sure we are impacting the wider community with knowledge about safety, about fire safety. And some of us, or everyone, or a few of you guys, or some of us probably become consultants with training institutions where we can actually continue to share the message. Or public education is one, right? So there has to be public education where we are talking about health and safety, fire safety, trying to ensure that we have various programs that disseminate these kind of messages to get down to the people who are not educated. Okay. All right. So that will mean that we are leveraging various language models to be able to share health and safety message to the people. All right. But there has to be some sort of extension service, an extension of a certain body, and that body could be the National Fire Service or the body that is in charge for safety across board. That we have the extension department that goes around to educate the people. All right. But I understand that there are some challenges with fire service. They've actually done that. Some of them have actually you know um, they've actually expressed some of the challenges they faced when they go to share messages on fire safety. There was a news on that which I saw that they went there to talk about fire safety, but the traders are not interested, right? That is probably bound to happen because they are busy trying to survive. When people are busy trying to survive and you reach them talking about fire safety, sometimes they tend to not pay attention. But we need to find a lot of alternative ways of disseminating the information, and it could be various um, programs on TV, educational programs, all of these innovative ways going back to the past when we used to have a lot of education on TV. We used to have a lot of roles that are playing acting. People act a movie, a very nice movie talking about fire, talking about some of the social vices that we need to avoid. I think can equally go back to that. All right. I don't know. I think that's the responsibility of the National Commission for Civic Education or something, right? So these are some of the ways we can actually improve the system. Okay. And then most importantly, wherever there is a high fire risk, we need to make sure that we relocate the traders to a safe area so that we can do some refurbishment. Okay. So these are some of the ways we can actually improve. All right. So we are looking at basically the long-term strategy, which is about the fact that we need to formalize the informal economy. It is important that all the structures are in place. We shouldn't have an informal economy that is thriving. We should always make sure that we implement all the systems that formalizes every type of economic activity. So every economic activity that we have in this country, it has to be formalized. We don't have to let it thrive in an informal setting. It has to come under the responsibility of the local government. It is very, very important, and they need to find all the requirement. They must meet the requirement to be able to operate. We need to also invest adequately in fire service. The capacity of the Ghana National Fire Service is currently not the best. We all saw that in the video. Okay, there were some other footage which I didn't show, but that has to do with the fact that they ran out of fuel and they could not really fight the fire as they wanted because there weren't adequate personnel there. So they had to wait, get support from other services like the military, which was fair enough. That was a good move. But then again, we need to empower them. We need to give them more resources. So we are calling on all stakeholders. We can use that as corporate social responsibility. You could donate to the Ghana National Fire Service, which is very, very important. It go a long way to support them, but they need a change. They need some sort of structural changes as well to make sure that their equipment are adequate. They have better technology for fighting fire and not only leveraging these fire tenders. There could be various other technologies. All right, we need to look at fighting fire at a much bigger scale. I mean, assuming there's a very big fire at a very large scale, how would we extinguish the fire, right? So the concern of the trader who was talking about helicopter to fight fire could equally be a concern. I mean, could be a legitimate concern, right? It could be a legitimate concern in the sense that if there was a helicopter that could fight the fire, it would have extinguished the fire in just some few minutes, it wouldn't have, escalated to the point where it kept spreading to other areas. So these are possible areas that we can look at. Again, we need to strengthen the building codes and enforce the building codes, right? So there's a building code that regulates the building requirements when you are constructing any type of building. You need to meet the building code, right? So who is responsible? I think the municipal assembly or the district assembly is responsible for the enforcement of building code, and that must be enforced to the highest level by making sure there has to be a system, the system of verifying, the system of inspecting, the system of controlling, and making sure everybody stick to the building code is very, very important. Okay, so this is probably what our message is for today. We are also looking at what, again, basically the fact that there has to be a national strategy for fire safety at this point, given the fact that this is happening every now and then. There has to be a national strategy for fire safety, just like how, when it comes to road transport safety, there is actually a global decade of action for road transport safety, and that translates into a national decade of action as well, which is being, basically being guiding the National Road Safety Authority. We can equally do same with the fire incident that are happening, because if fire incidents are such a big concern, right, then what it means is that there has to be a national commitment to fighting fire. There has to be a national strategy for fighting fire, and I think that is a call to action to the government to really look at it and come up with such a strategy. Okay, another thing we can also talk about is the fact that we need to empower the local community. All right, so empowering the local community and will mean that we need to train the local community on how they can equally support in improving safety standard at the market centers, and just like how it has been set up in the formal settings in various workplaces, especially when there's the company is very big. You notice that there's the HSC department, and there's also the safety committee, and there are employee representatives, right? So the employee representatives are representing the employees, and then we have the safety committee where they all show up and we're able to have a dialogue about improving safety of the workers, right? Similar thing, we need to make sure that there is a structure for safety where we are engaging, the community leaders to equally be involved in safety, where they are part of a certain committee that looks at that cater to safety at their communities, especially at the market centers, right? And we need to see how we can provide training to upskill them, to improve their knowledge, to improve their ability to fight fire, to share the message about the importance of having, fire extinguishers and all of that. Again, we can look at the importance of, climate change as an action. Okay, so that is actually, the new trend right now, that every organization must be committed to responsible business that does not impact on the climate. All right. In the case of the fire, that is equally important in the sense that we need to explore, green energy, right? Not to resort to fossil fuel and all of that. We could look at other ways of, using fire at the market centers, especially knowing that there are a lot of combustibles at all of these locations, right? So wherever there are a lot of combustible materials, we need to make sure that we've done adequate risk assessment and the fire controls are all in place. All right. So that is pretty much what this session is about. I believe that you guys have found it very insightful. All right. So this is something that I plan to be doing from time to time, where I share my opinion from the safety lens. For those of you who are able to show up, thank you all for showing up. And again, basically, we are going live every single day on Shexel. We're going live on Shexel particularly. So from tomorrow, all those who join, you can equally join me over there as I go live, showing you a lot of insight into our template. This very forum is for us to basically share our opinion from the safety lens. Every time there is any major incident, I'll just come your way to equally share my perspective of it. And that is how I personally contribute to safety in Ghana and leveraging the platform that we are building. And if you want to be part of this conversation, you can always get in touch. All right. So I'm looking forward to a stage where a lot more people will just join so that we can have a, we can have a dialogue in this forum. Though I know it is equally nice for people to meet in, in Zoom sessions and all of that. That is fantastic. But I think that we can have a podcast, we can have a conversation, we can talk about safety like this and make a community more exciting, more engaging, and all of that. All right. So thank you all for your attention. And I'm going to see you again in another video. Let me know your thoughts. I hope this wasn't boring enough. All right. So let me know your thoughts. All right. So if you chance upon this video, just give your feedback. Let me know how it went and all of that. Okay. So thank you all. And I'm going to see you guys in another video. Bye for now. Cheers.